Hi, how's everybody doing? My name's Chris Shaw. I am a Kansas City expat slash retransplant. I grew up here. I spent the first 18 years of my life here and really haven't been here the last decade. So uh, I'll begin with that. Oh, you didn't actually start, did you? Okay. So what's interesting about me is really there's nothing special, right? I grew up in Raymore. I'm the oldest of three kids. I grew up wanting to be a cross between the Nigerian Nightmare and George Brett, right? Like this was home for me. It wasn't anything that was insane that let me do the crazy things I've done the last 10 years. So in the last 10 years, my partner and I were ranked number one in collegiate debate. I coached a team to the Final Four at 23 years old. I consulted for Fortune 500 companies. I started a technology company. I worked for venture-backed companies all over the world and talked about entrepreneurship. And I've met guys like Jason, Tim, and others in the entrepreneurial community here that have asked me like how I got to do things. And this is probably the best example I have is I wake up every day like I'm on fire. And part of the reason why I do that is because my dad grew up rather poor. He was a military guy in a family in Drexel where he went to lunch with two pieces of bread some days. So he instilled in that us, like, to my brothers and I, we had to wake up like the world was on fire. I could talk about the math and, viral factors and statistics. My wife said skip all that. But I will tell you a little bit about how Boston shaped me. That's where I spent the last few years, right? Boston is an amazing city. Paul Graham, who is a messiah in the startup world, right, with Y Combinator, he talks about Cambridge is the most ambitious city. That's where I lived, right, MIT and Harvard. He said, what I like about Boston, or rather Cambridge, is that the message is there. You should be smarter. You should get around to reading all the books that you talk about doing, right, and doing all the things you want to do. He talks about Cambridge as the intellectual capital of the world. I'm not sure I believe that. I don't think the people in Cambridge are all that more intelligent than the people in Kansas City. What I do think is that the people in Cambridge wake up every day like they want to do something cool. Like they believe in the ideas that they're thinking about. They want to meet new people, engage in new things, build new products, start new things. And one of the other things that came unhinged for me was that I got to just run into people, right? Brad Feld, when he comes to Kansas City, it's like a fireside chat here at Kaufman, right? I bumped into him on the damn T. That just happens in Cambridge, right? It doesn't happen here. So one of the things I learned, the recipe is you wake up like things are on fire and then there are no limits. And if you think about those things, you can have great success. So what I've noticed in talking to people is there are lots of things that get in the way of this recipe, right? What prevents us from taking action, right? I think there are three things. There's credit seeking, there's shortcut chasing, and there's hero worshiping. I've seen some of these things here. John just spoke about how he hears crickets here in Kansas City sometimes when he's trying to get things done, and I've noticed that. I've only been on the ground about 100 days, but I've definitely felt that, right? So the credit seeking. This is when the politicos and the politicians and the media people and everybody in town, like Game of Thrones style, wants to seek the Iron Throne. They all want to say, who's going to, be the person that gets the credit for winning the project, for bringing the VC fund here, for, blowing up the startup that employs 500 people, for doing the new redevelopment project, right? Why? Because of things like unchecked ego, money, fame, politics. Who gives a shit about any of this stuff? Things don't get accomplished if we're worrying about all of this. We need to sort of free ourselves of who gets the credit and work together. And I've met lots of people that want to do those things too, but we have other things. In Detroit, they're doing things like reverse vandalism with the Detroit Mower Gang. They didn't have a bus company, so they just bought buses, spray painted them, put DJs and Wi-Fi on them, and now they're actually transporting people all over the city. These are things we can do. So another thing that prevents us from acting is shortcut chasing, right? This is out of laziness, scaredness, or mistakenly we think it makes it easier, right? You read Lifehacker all day, and you feel like you'll get the recipe for being famous and rich, right? Thomas Edison said that opportunity is missed by most people because it is dressed in overalls and looks like work. This is the 10,000 hours kind of thing, right? You just have to wake up and say, fuck it, I need to learn something, right? Seriously. There isn't always a shortcut. Sometimes you just have to spend the hours learning, meeting new people, trying new things, engaging in the community. And I think the last thing that prevents us from doing things is hero worship. Oh, he's a genius. She's so wealthy. They have connections. They have resources. They live in Mission. They don't live on Paseo. Right? Well, guess what? None of that stuff matters. You know who these people are? They're a woman from Wisconsin, a man from Hawaii, a guy who went to Carnegie Mellon and ended up in Boulder, a lanky kid from Cleveland, Ohio. That's who these people are. That's all they are people, and every one of you can do something interesting too, but you have to free yourself from the idea that all of these people are preventing you from getting things done. Steve Jobs said that most people never pick up the phone to call. They never ask. That's what prevents them from doing something as opposed to just dreaming it, right? And that's my simple recipe for the things I've been able to accomplish. And if there's anybody in the room that would like some help, I'm more than happy to. Like I said, I'm sort of recently back here, but I'm getting reconnected into the scene, and I really like the things going on. But I definitely want to see more people waking up like they're on fire, realizing there are no limitations, and just kicking ass.